Hi, I'm Ernie Conover. I thought you might like to see what we do to bring one of our tool comparison articles to you. For this comparison of benchtop lathes, Woodworker's Journal brought 8 benchtop lathes into my shop. It is now absolute chaos. And I'd like to show you what I do to compare all of these lathes, giving you a 360 view of the set. There we have a Canon 5D, which is both a fantastic still camera and a great video camera. And here we have a Delta, a Colt, a Jet. And here's a Rikon, actually being photographed right now. There's a Nova Comet 2. A Turncrafter Commander, a Stelex, and right there is an Excelsior and another still/video camera, a Fuji X Pro 1. For all of the still photos of lathes in the article, I use a Canon 5D single lens reflex camera with a very specialized lens called a tilt shift lens. And this lens brings view camera kinds of shifts to a single lens reflex camera. By making the film plane parallel to the lathe and to the backdrop behind it, I can now rack the lens element downward with this knob and get the entire lathe in the photo and yet maintain all of the verticals parallel. You don't get that keystoning that you get when you point a camera up or down. Manufacturers often give the center to center distance for a lathe as the distance from the nose of the headstock spindle to the nose of the tailstock spindle. You have to have a set of centers in it. So in our data, we have given you the actual distance from the face of the spur center to the face of the live center, what you can really put in the lathe. Of course, you can always hang the tailstock a bit off of the bed and gain an inch or so. Also, manufacturers list twice the spindle height as the swing of the lathe. This would be 6.5 inches, which would give this lathe a 13-inch swing. But the true swing of it is the distance above the tool rest, which is only 4 3/4, giving it a 9.5-inch swing. I'd like to show you some of the features that we found were notable in the lathes as we reviewed them. All of the variable speed lathes in the review had a DC motor with a DC controller. Most of them had a digital readout as well, which is a feature that we really liked. Most of the lathes had the ability to reverse the lathe, which is a feature I don't think is very necessary, but it's there if you want it. Attaching the extension bed to any of the lathes is a bit of a hassle, and a great way to line the bed up is to bring the bolts up just barely tight and then straddle the main bed and the extension bed so that the washer on the bottom side is on both sides of that junction right there. Tighten this down good and tight and then go in and tighten the bolts to full torque. This will line things up nicely. A great idea of Rikon was to put 2 grub screws that you can bring down against the ledge that this sits on. And many people like to only bring this extension out when they need it for a longer piece of work to save room in their shop. This allows you just to set that on that ledge. The 2 grub screws will register. Put the bolts in and tighten them, and you're ready to go. Great idea, Rikon. Another nice feature of the Rikon and the Colt lathe was that they had a 1-inch stem on the tool rest, while all of the rest of the lathes have a 5/8 stem. This puts a lot more strength in the tool rest and was something that we thought was a very good idea. All of the lathes in the review now have poly V rather than V-belt pulleys that we saw on lathes years ago. Poly V's give very smooth power transmission with no surging. All of the variable speed lathes retain the step pulley system to give you more control over speed. You can liken this to the transmission in your car. This would be first gear, second gear, and third gear. This is when you need to get power to the wheel, such as in faceplate work. You would use this step, and the controller then becomes like the accelerator. And that gives you more control over that range of speeds. You would go to this big pulley when you were doing miniatures. And most of the lathes have a chart that give you the speed ranges on each of those pulleys. The rest of the variable speed lathes in this review used what is pretty much the industry standard, a DC motor and a DC controller. The Colt lathe really stood out for us in that it has used a frequency drive, which I've never seen on any lathe under about 1.5 horsepower. The frequency drive is an electronics package sitting right back here, which takes normal 60 cycle house current and converts it to 3-phase current at any cycle rate between about 2 cycles and actually more than 60 cycles. So by turning this potentiometer, we can change the cycle rate and the speed, which reads out digitally right here. Great package. And the nice part about frequency drive is you still have wonderful torque at the low end. I can't stop this lathe. I'll burn my hand first. Great job, Colt. A necessary accessory to sharpen your tools is a bench grinder. A feature we really liked on the Nova Comet 2 was this little auxiliary grinding attachment that mounts via this Versaturn attachment. The two components cost about $135 together, and by simply lining this up and bayonet locking it in place, you now have a great variable speed grinder on your lathe. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little behind the scenes look at one of our tool tests. In an interesting take on technology, the walk through the shop at the beginning of this video was taken with an iPhone 7 Plus. I had it on 1080 progressive scan, but this camera in this phone will take full 4K video. Amazing where technology is going. Be sure and look at your subscription when it comes in the mail, or pick the magazine up in the newsstand and take a look at all the cool facts and photos we have that will allow you to make great buying decisions about all of these lathes. Thanks for visiting.